The Unrelating podcasts are meant to be for education and entertainment. They don't constitute a service or advice. For personal struggles, please reach out to a medical or mental health professional.
Michelle, do you recall your worst breakup or one of your hardest breakups?
Yes. I don't think you ever forget a really bad breakup.
When was this, I guess?
I was in my 20s. It feels devastating in the moment. And of course, we have the gift of time and, distance now to reflect on it. But what I do remember is just viscerally just feeling devastated and miserable and angry and sad. Just walking around like this open wound.
Were you living together?
No, not living together. Nothing like no betrayal or nothing happened that was, like a concrete, breakup situation.
No, I firmly believe people should go through multiple breakups in their lifetime, if only to just get your licks in early in life. Like, get bruised and dirty. Like they say kids should eat dirt. Well, I think, adults should eat relationship dirt growing up. So you want to get them out of the way, make your mistakes. And then ideally, you're better positioned for success later in life. Am I bad with breakups? Absolutely. They're good breakups, I guess.
Well, I mean, the thing to me is it's universal. It's a very infinitesimally small percentage of the population has met their high school sweetheart and been married to them for 60 years. Most people have had a breakup. And so when you talk about breakups, they can immediately go back to those feelings. But I'm excited because you are bringing on a guest who is going through it now, right?
Yeah.
This is a very recent situation. And that's a different headspace to be in from what we're talking about, which is like, oh, I can remember back in the day.
Our guest today is currently going through a breakup as we speak. So this is a very topical episode, and it's going to be helpful for him just to talk it out with somebody.
It's also a kind thing to do because it's probably not where his head is at to want to bring up all this raw stuff, but it's a service to our show and to our listeners for him to share how he's doing and what he's been through. Because like I said, we've all been there.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome to Unrelating with Kel and Michelle.
I've been a licensed marriage and family therapist for over 2 decades.
And I'm the show producer and co-host.
Together, we'll explore how we engage in relationships,
why we do what we do,
and what causes people to unrelate.
Joining us today, a special guest, a friend of mine, dear friend of mine I've known for many, many years, Scott, who finally agreed to come on the podcast. I've been bugging him for, I don't know, about a year, Scott?
Yeah, almost. About a year.
Reason why I think this is an important conversation is because, as we'll soon find out, Scott has been going through kind of a really rough transition in his life, a long-term breakup.
To make it sound so dramatic.
Well, talk about how you're figuring things out and figuring out your next steps.
Mm-hmm.
I think what is so lovely about Scott coming on right now is that he's kind of in the thick of getting this breakup happening, and so I'll be curious to find out, Scott, if we're there, if we're still in the dark space, if we've moved on a little bit more, because it's a different tone based on that.
You went through a recent breakup. How long were you two together?
Okay, so we were together. It would have been 11 years this January 17th, 2026. So quite a long one, which is my longest one. So far, my longest relationship. I think I had an 8-year and a 5 or 6 year kind of deal. And this one started off great. And like a lot of relationships, it slowly became what it became. And not with lack of trying to, make the shift and the turns where needed. But quite frankly, my perspective on relationships is they shouldn't take too much work or effort. I know people say it's hard, relationships are hard, marriage is hard, you got to work on them. Mm-hmm. I'm all about like me and Kelly happen to be good friends. There's not a whole lot of work or effort that goes into that. We just have some kind of chemistry that allows us to be friendly and caring towards one another and want to go see each other, do stuff occasionally, whatever. I know it's not an intimate relationship. Well, there's a certain intimacy, but, and I don't think that it's that far off from being with somebody of the opposite sex or in a loving relationship. It should be organic and the chemistry should flow, you know.
Kind of like our relationship.
You
You
guys
and
just
I?
flow.
We got chemistry and we got flow, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting point because you're right. People talk about how relationships are hard work. And what frustrates me is no one ever defines, like, what does that mean? What does hard work even look like? And to me, the hard part, per se, is just that you are intertwined with another human being and you have to have some sacrifice and some compromise. Those are the hard pieces. And sometimes communication, because you may have different styles. But I agree with you that it shouldn't be constant work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a job.
Yeah.
Scott, walk us through kind of what happened.
So basically, I mean, it was, over the course of almost 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that like they say, people just grow in different ways sometimes. And I feel like I've grown in ways that weren't conducive and compatible with where she wound up, in the last year or two. And I tried to sort of reconcile that and make it work. Which again, I don't think you can't really push something to work if it doesn't work after a while. That's just how I see it. It's just turns out we were more different than I thought. Our backgrounds were pretty different. She's from the Midwest. Not that I'm Mr. Highfalutin culture guy, but I've been around. I've been to a few countries. I've had some interesting. I grew up in Los Angeles. Right there, I've seen things that most people probably hadn't.
We're from the Midwest, by the way.
Yeah, you're talking to two Midwesterners.
It's not a judgment.
Like
it's not a,
silently waiting for.
It's not a judgment call. Kelly from the Midwest is far more cultured than I am. I mean, you've been out and about and around and with celebrities and blah 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 and all that stuff. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And would you say that's the core of it, Scott? Because there's always like, here's what we're kind of saying is the reason we broke up. And then here's like the real reason we broke up.
I'm sorry, but it's not that easy. I mean, there's no one core.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of constituents that make up a large core, like a body or something. It's, and again, sometimes chemistry just runs out also.
When you're saying that you guys are realizing that you're more different than you thought and not really growing in the same direction, how does that manifest? Did you guys then end up kind of punishing each other for that or acting out because you were frustrated about that, or it was more amicable?
We definitely went through a darker period of, not being very kind to one another. Nothing serious or violent or anything close to that. Just sort of, like we were each other's thorns in each other's sides. And it's just like, just get out. And it basically just turned into me just unplugging from the whole thing electrically, just kind of entering my own little Zen space. And conscientious of this person being with me, and she's here, right? She was here, but I just sort of unplugged emotionally, and here's one thing: our communication was awful. We almost spoke different languages.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with a mom and a sister, and we're in a Jewish family. We just blah, 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 talk all the time, and we get through stuff. And with this last relationship, it was like pulling teeth to try to communicate. And I'm not saying I'm not at fault. It's the two, the chemistry again.
She was just closed off, Scott?
She was pretty closed off in a lot of ways. I mean, in almost 11 years, I could tell you very little about like her childhood and things about her past and whatnot. And I mean, you'd think you'd know almost everything about a person after that long, like my sister and her husband. It's like there's nothing they don't know pretty much, and so.
When did it start manifesting? I can speak to this a little bit. I remember when you first started dating, there was a lot of that, I felt like, energy and chemistry between the two of you.
In a positive way?
in a positive way, right? At least I thought so. At what point did that start to kind of shift?
For example, I like to cook and I like to eat. She can kind of care less about food for the most part and eats because you have to.
Mm.
If we would go out somewhere, go out to a bar or whatever, if the music was a little too loud and she was, annoyed with it, it's like, I'm leaving, just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and just talk
Right.
crap about her. That's not
Right.
fair. Because
Right.
I'm no walk in the park, I'm sure, but
But it sounds like you couldn't even have the conversations you needed to say like, this is what I'm owning, this is what I'm owning, this is what I'll adjust, this is what I'll adjust.
I really did try. Yeah. There was just a lot of darkness around her. At some point, the darkness set in and got to the point where I was just turned off by it. Ironically, like sort of the darker and more distant she became, the more I kind of went inside and tried to find my own little like light and positivity in a strange way.
You guys bought a house together, which
Mm-hmm.
talk about that process.
Well, so we were living down in La Quinta, about like Palm Springs, and we were kind of priced out of that area. I was not working at the time. She happened to have been, which is also another thing with our relationship. Like it was very infrequent that we were both kind of running on all cylinders, and I was working, she was working. It was kind of almost one or the other. And so, yeah, we bought a house up here in the high desert because it was affordable. There's one instance where there was one house she really wanted, and quite frankly, it could have been a really good financial investment because it was like $230,000 at the time, and it sold for like $675,000 like
Yep.
a couple few years later. And I'm not sure if she ever let that one go regarding the real estate. But we found this place, and like I've said before, she would pull up to our property and see all the problems and all the mistakes and all the issues, and would feel like, embarrassed in a weird way, which I'm sure has to do with her childhood. She grew up fairly poor, I believe. I was more middle class. And I pull up to my property and I see my palace, my kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's just perspective.
Sure. Yeah.
And I could have been with somebody that saw that too, that saw how I saw it, and things probably could have been different.
That's a great metaphor for the relationship.
Yeah. Was she harbored resentment about buying the property?
Well, it's come up over the years way more frequently than it should have. It's, maybe like the child she, like we never had, like that was it, or something, like
Yeah.
it was like, that was like the anchor of a lot of weight, because it came up more than anything. We could never agree on anything. We always contradicted each other, and she'd want to do something in the house, and I, for the most part, would just be like whatever, because she happens to have been a better decorator than I am and whatnot. But some things I would push back on, and they became like bigger issues, and I had a right to say, yeah, I don't really care for that or this, or I don't like that. I'm speaking in general terms.
Sure.
We're just, I think what happened was we were opposites. And when we first met, that opposite attract thing pulled us together in a strange way. And then at some point, like the magnet pulls you together, and then it starts to kind of shift where it kind of repels. If you turn one side one way, it kind of, it has the opposite effect, and it pushes you away from the other thing.
Yeah.
And we kind of started negating each other completely.
And just having different perspectives too. We did a show a while back about optimists versus pessimists, and I think they can coexist. They can have a relationship together, but not if it's extreme enough where like the pessimist is zapping the joy of the optimist all the time. Or if you feel like you are misunderstood by the one person who's supposed to understand and kind of support you in your perspective.
Well, maybe 10 years ago, which is enough time, maybe I started out a little more pessimistic when we met. And that was something we had in common. And over time, I found a job I enjoy. I found a place I like living. I found some grounding where I am. And I started to become more optimistic about things, maybe, and positive. And she never made that shift, perhaps. And,
That's a great insight.
So how did you start to have the conversation, or what was that conversation like when you guys finally said, okay, this isn't working, or we just need to like move on?
Well, it starts with all the obvious things, not being able to make a simple decision. What do you want to, what do you want to get for food? Oh, I want this, I want that. And, like different pages to where do would you want to go? So we just kind of stopped going places. The intimacy went away almost entirely at some point. Came up so many times. And I think it became more like out of necessity. Maybe in the very beginning, it was like, do you really want to, we don't want to really deal with this, do we? So let's just keep trudging on and, let's avoid that, because that's more of a pain in the ass than just being together. At some point, it just became obvious, all the little things just built up, and I just started getting more and more okay with it myself. Because I tried pretty hard. I mean, what do you need? What can I do to make things better? And the truth is, there wasn't a whole lot more I could have done.
How comforting a feeling is that as you're trying to now rebuild, that you did everything you could?
I guess it's pretty comforting. I mean, I must say, I've been a very slow maturer, meaning, like I'm 55. I've never been married still. This is the first house I've owned, and I've never had real adult, like a real like an adult outlook on things until, however, maybe five years ago, I started feeling like, yeah, I'm kind of like a real adult now, and
you're adulting. Yeah, exactly.
I'm adulting. Yeah, I guess I kind of, embraced the scared little boy, that didn't want to be alone. And that's the little kid that used to just want to stay in the relationship because it's better than being alone, because all the scary things out there. And now I feel like this is the first time I've actually been on my own. I mean, really, I went from mom to sister to friends as roommates to girlfriends or roommates. And I've never really lived alone. And so far, so good. But it just has to be with where I am today. And, some of the stability that I've acquired finally.
Yeah. And a little pet therapy, because you have your dog.
And a little pet therapy. Huge.
Which is huge. Yeah.
So when she was moving out, I said, so what are we going to do about the dogs? And she said, oh, I'm taking the dogs. And just my heart just, and she finally decided that she was going to take 2 of the 3 dogs, and she wound up doing that for about 4 or 5 days. It was just me and one of the youngest dog that I kind of picked out, and it was pretty kind of sad, but I was going to be okay. And then she moved out on a Saturday, and when she called me on the following Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days later, saying, I'm, an hour away. I'm bringing the other 2 dogs back. They hate my brother. They hate being at his house. And when I came home and I saw these dogs, it really changed a lot for me. It made my heart just lift.
And to feel those feelings again of your heart lifting, because I just want to say it's heartbreaking to look across at your partner and be like, I don't enjoy your company anymore. Or, you don't add value to my life anymore. And to be in that space for as long as it takes before you leave. And then you get out of that cloud and suddenly you are finding joy again and there's nobody trying to take it away. That's a great feeling.
Yeah. It's happy, sad. I actually just read Cameron Crowe's biography, and he uses this term happy/sad.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, there's a loss. There's something sad about that. But looking forward to perhaps the possibility of meeting somebody better for me for them, having more in common, just being better all together, is the happy part, whether it happens or not, who knows?
You did mention something that is pretty common too, people who stay longer than they probably should because of the logistical nightmare of leaving. And you'd think that wouldn't weigh so heavily on people, but when you're exhausted from adulting, thinking about untangling, a house and pets and finances and all of these things just feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can only imagine people with kids and, I mean, we weren't even technically married, so we were able to come up with some financial solutions that kind of worked for both of us.
And I definitely don't think you needed to be married, but is there a specific reason you guys chose not to be married?
I don't know. She wanted to be, and I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, when we first met, it was kind of a fast whirlwind, which looking back, all my relationships kind of start a little too fast, which I'm taking forward to present day. And I'm conscientiously not going to try to just jump into something, because I'll have a great meal, maybe have, a good, time in bed or something with somebody. And I'm like, you should just move in, or whatever. And it's ridiculous. It's just silly. And I need to avoid that because it's not enough time. Yeah, she always just wanted to just, her way of dealing with things was to sort of pick up and move. I guess her mom did that a lot when she was a kid. So I guess she learned that. Like, obviously, it doesn't work because wherever you go, there you are. So,
Michelle, that's kind of like a lot of avoidance, like avoiding conflict.
Mm-hmm.
or just avoiding, whatever it is that's causing that darkness I just spoke of with her, whatever it is that's deep hidden. Not to say that I got it all worked out, but I think I'm working it out slowly. And with her, it's like, don't want to talk about it. Let's just move. Let's just, and it's just going to follow you around that shadow, right?
Yeah, it'll find its way out no matter how much you push it down. And no partner wants to hear their partner say you need therapy.
And
Did you ever bring that up or no?
so many times I'm like,
Yeah.
do you ever think about talk? Because she didn't have any girlfriends really to talk to. She had a couple of friends that were like in their 70s, and we're like in our mid 50s.
I will say, Scott, and I have noticed in the past 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it's been, I've just noticed you seem happier. It's kind of like the old Scott is back.
I mean, you'll remember when I was with Sherry and stuff. I mean, we would have parties. I'd set up music instruments and people would just come over and we'd play music. And that was a good relationship in that regard. We did that and we both enjoyed it and we both fit together like puzzle pieces really well and whatnot. And
this is the previous relationship before the relationship.
Well, I'm curious, is there a through line to some of your breakups? Any themes that you feel have repeated? Sherry sounds great, but you're not with her anymore. So something happened.
There was a 12-year age gap, which didn't really make that big of a difference. But I think it was her. She had 3 kids and a PhD psychologist, ex-husband. So it was a nightmare, and I was reliving my own parents' divorce as a kid. I was a kid again. I think the biggest through line is probably me not being stable and mature enough to see different ways out of things or just a way out of something bad because I felt so like I couldn't do it. I couldn't take care of myself. I you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be vulnerable, so I stayed, or I didn't want to be alone, so I stayed. So the through line is I think I stay too long.
Is there some insecurity there, Scott?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But that's why I think I'm getting better. And, maybe before, it's too late. I mean, I still have a ton of insecurities and that's all, from probably just being a little kid and whatever, Michelle knows better than that. Like just, not powerful enough to make my own decisions and whatever. But being a little smarter and a little older and a little more mature and having a house and having a job and all of these things kind of like coming together now, I feel like if I keep on this path, I have a shot at a good, healthier relationship because I'll be less insecure if I can manage that,
Well, you already are. And the reason I asked that question is because you have the job, you have the house, you have more maturity, you also have more insight. So now you have this list of things that you can be more aware of in your next relationship. Maybe you jump in too fast, maybe you stay too long, maybe you're insecure. And these are things you now can look out for rather than just reflect on them after another breakup, you know? You're being
Yeah.
proactive now.
We are the product of our pasts, right? I mean, ideally, you're looking forward now, and Scott, and you see sort of the bright skies, right? Is that what they call it? They call blue skies versus gray
Mm-hmm.
skies, blue skies.
Well, I think also just where I am also maturing and I'm on a little bit of a, dare I say, a spiritual sort of, quest. I think I have been since as long as I can remember, 3, 4 years old. It can literally be gray skies outside and I can see that it's just okay because it's not forever and those are going to part and the sun will shine through again and whatnot rather than, you know, falling into the, all the darkness of that, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. Like accepting things, basically, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Accepting it because there's no control, and giving up control is a form of control, I think, for me. Because I definitely, from my insecurities, can be very trying to control things. Narcissistic parents and selfish and all that shit that a lot of people go through. And now I realize that I don't have to do anything I don't want to do for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I have to die someday, no getting around that, and probably pay my taxes, and that can cause problems. But you know what I'm saying. For the most part, it's like, oh wait, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do any of that anymore.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in control of what I'm doing now, to a
Mm-hmm.
certain degree, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
in no control of what anything outside of me is doing.
That's a powerful lesson.
Yeah.
And
And
I,
you're proving that you can be alone.
You talk about dating and getting back out there, and you don't feel rushed, do you? I feel like you're in a good place.
it's funny because it's only been not even 3 weeks. Some of that existential sort of angst, may happen at some moments where I'm like, ah,
Mm-hmm.
what's the ultimate? The ultimate is the end. So I got to do all this before then. And it's like, wait a second, what's out there is irrelevant. It's nothing. It's right here now still. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to continually bring myself back to the present and try to stay in, the moment because there's really not a whole lot that exists outside of it, right? I'm also trying to access emotions a little more and a little better because I have never been
Mhm.
good at that. I've always sort of just repressed them, pushed them aside, whatever, because it makes me feel very uncomfortable and vulnerable. And that has come up in my past, this ending past relationship. I even have said to her, not, that I think I might be a little, don't freak out, a little on the spectrum of psychopathic in the sense, or sociopathic, whichever is. I have a hard time accessing emotions, and I don't know if it's just a chemistry thing. I read this book. Maybe you've heard of her, Michelle. She became a PhD in psychology, working with other sociopaths or psychopaths. This woman, basically when she was 5, she stabbed some kid in grade school, like in the eye with a pencil, and she said, and I just felt nothing. And then as she was going through life, she's like that she just didn't access emotions like normal people.
Mm.
And I don't think I'm that crazy far into that, but when I feel emotions, whether it's sad or whatever, it's still very kind of foreign, but I kind of like it, if that makes sense. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of ready for it. I'm kind of ready to feel a little more.
But you told me that you felt emotional when she took the dogs, and then when she brought them back, you just felt like this wave of emotion.
Yeah, that was joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
maybe because I felt that sadness. Because
Mm-hmm.
without one, there is not the other. I mean,
Yeah.
so I felt like wow. And I was sort of living in that sadness right when she took off, within a couple of days, I was, accepting it. And it was happening fairly fast. I've got a fast metabolism. I
Mm-hmm.
process things, everything very quickly, more quickly than most people do, I think. When the dogs came back, it was like this gift
Mm-hmm.
that just started and came full circle. And it was just like, oh, wow, it started here, dark, sad, and it came back here and it just wiped that
Yep.
away. I would like to be more emotionally intelligent.
Well, I mean, you're raised and there's like a list of 1,000 feelings, and as men you're told you can have 5 of these and
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have the
Yeah.
odds stacked against you sometimes.
I don't feel like I'm particularly emotionally evolved, although my dad wasn't particularly emotional with me, and I know your dad isn't particularly emotional with you. And by emotional, I mean like overly loving, right? I didn't have a lot of that either growing up, so I don't know.
I mean, I know, and again, grain of salt, but some of the astrology stuff, you're a Cancer. Cancers are known to be sort of more emotional,
Mm-hmm.
how they interact with the world and people and stuff. I'm a Gemini, and apparently, we're all up here. It's
Oh,
more intellectual rather than this other part.
yeah,
Yeah.
Or I'm a psychopath, and that's just how it
I love
is.
how you pathologize. You went straight to psychopath. But it could also be, and I'm not saying this is you, Scott, but I want to say this kind of as a general statement.
Yeah.
Some people misinterpret how they process their feelings. So maybe you said, I got over it quickly, but you're snapping at the dogs, or you get headaches or stomach issues, or there's other ways that your body and your mind are processing those feelings, not necessarily to your awareness. I don't know. I think also Kelly has over the years decided he cares less about being judged for being vulnerable, which is a
yes,
huge shift. So that vulnerability is really what's helping him feel his feelings and
That
not,
makes sense.
yeah.
yeah. I definitely over the years have gotten more. I think it's also security too. I'm less insecure, and I'm more secure with who I am, and then therefore I'm not afraid to say what I think and think what I say and be emotional. But it's also an age thing too, guys. I mean, ultimately, I think there is something to be said for as you get older. Most recently, my dad, he's just turned 80. He's suddenly becoming so emotional. It's really cool to see that. It's taken 80 years, but ultimately, it's like I'm seeing this evolution. And if it can happen to him, I mean, certainly there is. It's never too late, right?
Yeah. Is there space in your heart for that change? Are you willing to accept that him being different than he was? Like if you grew up with a dad who was not emotional, and there may be some like residual feelings about that, and then suddenly he is. I know there's a lot of people in our
Mm-hmm.
age range who are now dealing with like a shift in their parent, or seeing their parent with their grandkids being like an
Yeah.
amazing grandparent, and then there's
Yeah.
just this resentment and bitterness about it. So I was
Oh,
just
interesting.
wondering, yeah, I was just wondering if like him being more emotional with you is something you can accept, or you feel yourself a little bit resistant to.
Oh no, I think it's wonderful. It's almost like a role reversal in many ways. It's like I'm suddenly feeling like the proud parent, or something like
Hmm.
that. It's like I'm so happy to see him evolve.
No, my father is actually pretty emotional, and maybe perhaps because I saw how he would emotionally react to things and sort of be a little bit out of control with anger and that kind of stuff. That I kind of process that intellectually, thinking, okay, got to put that stuff aside to stay out of trouble, or put that stuff
Mm.
aside, but
Yeah.
maybe to an unhealthy point.
Yeah, sometimes we overcorrect because we're trying to either not be a certain way, or but I'm curious, you mentioned your family. What was your sister's take about this breakup and the relationship?
She's supportive of it. We have a pretty darn honest relationship now. We've come a long way. I mean, we see things very differently politically and religiously and all this stuff, but we finally accepted the differences in each other. So the honest conversations, led her to see this as being most likely the right thing for me to be doing. Because she knows me, she knows my spirit,
Mhm.
she knows, who I am. I am a fairly jovial, social, sort of outgoing, optimistic person. There's always the other side, but that's more my go-to, I think. At
I
least,
think so. Yeah.
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 I can get negative and I can get, grumpy and all that. But yeah, for the most part, I'm choosing, I think, to see the brighter side and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to be with a woman that's, kind of knows who she is and isn't afraid of it and kind of has that strength. Somebody that's intelligent, but
Mm-hmm.
sweet and um, strong, but not like, overly masculine and just
Mm-hmm.
whatever that mixture is of what makes individuals like well-rounded.
I wish for you that you can find somebody like you. Like you said, your previous relationship, you were a bit different.
Listeners can't see Scott's reaction to what you just said, but I don't think he's convinced.
I don't, yeah.
That person you just said you are looking for, I think that in many ways you're talking about yourself.
Parallels. I mean, maybe like physically, I think we're all kind of maybe looking for our twin, like our other, like if you're a man, that feminine self that you are not, to sort of be able to reflect off of that and whatever. I mean, I don't want to go out with me because I'd kill me.
Well,
Oh.
it's a fair question to say, like, I want a balanced, well-rounded person, and then to say, wait, am I a balanced, well-rounded person?
Yeah.
Who am
Mm-hmm.
I? Who am I going to be for this other person?
Well, maybe I look to the other person, whoever that is or whoever that might be, to help me balance and get more well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
And this last one ran its course, maybe.
What I keep struggling with, Kel, about the story is it's hard to imagine how you could have fully trusted her if you didn't know that much about her after 11 years, or
Yeah.
if her view of life was just closed off.
Yeah.
How do you build that?
That's very interesting. And again, I mean, like, in a weird way, I actually trusted her in the sense of never doubted that she wouldn't cheat on me. Like, I never thought she would cheat on me, and she didn't, as far as I know, and I absolutely believe she didn't. So in that regard, she would have my back. So I trusted her in that regard and whatnot. But at the same time, you're right, Michelle. Maybe it's because I watched too many murder Dateline mysteries or whatever. But I would think like, so I just gave her like most of my savings. She's still on the house. I mean, I may wind up murdered in the next year, and you'll know where to look.
Well, it's a funny
crazy
example, but that's what I'm getting at is like the emotional trust, not the infidelity trust, because that's different, but just emotionally trusting someone that you can be vulnerable or.
That's a good point, because I don't know if they had that maybe as much as they should have, right?
Yeah. I'm not the world's most trusting person until I am. And then you've got my loyalty and you've got my trust. Once I'm as sure as I can be of it, like no doubt, like with friends like Kelly and stuff, it's like no doubt, that's it. We're done. Trust him. But I definitely have trust issues. That's for sure.
What I perceive, what you were missing from this past relationship and what you're looking for is a bit more fun and a bit more jovialness and some more lightness and some laughter that I didn't personally see a whole lot of in this previous relationship. So, in many ways, that's kind of a bit more who you are, because you are a fun person, in my opinion, and you weren't getting that, right?
Yes, so you are correct.
That's the kind of the thing you're missing.
Yeah, and you need to have the things that make you happy in order to weather the things you don't like about your partner.
Yeah.
And I don't need constant excitement. I don't need to be like, always going somewhere, always doing something. If I'm with somebody that's all nice and warm and snuggly, I'm on the couch watching movies with the fireplace going, But she didn't fulfill that. She wasn't really warm and snuggly like that. She wasn't very maternal in any ways. And I'm not looking for mommy again. I did that, I think, in a couple of relationships and realized, okay, be aware of that. Don't do that.
Snuggling up on the couch, though, and watching movies is a form of intimacy.
Yeah.
Nice, Cal.
Good one.
Yeah. Yes. I've been listening to the podcast, Michelle.
I'm so proud of you.
It's subtle. But it's still intimate.
Let me say intimacy. That is one thing that I will say I've struggled with, but I am getting better and better and better, because there's a vulnerability to being intimate, right? You have to open yourself up and trust the person and do all that stuff. She was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't that kind of intimacy. It was a little colder than warmer. And again, so we compare relationships, right? Like, you take all the best things of the last one and you realize, wow, I don't really have much of that in this one. But there's also bad ones in the previous one, and you got to take that too. Another issue, we're both a little wishy-washy about making decisions. I happen to be better off when I'm with somebody, an intimate partner, a friend, whatever, that's like, hey, I got this plan. This is what I'd like to do, or this is what we're doing. Sherry, for example, my last relationship, literally, Kelly was with me when I met her, she literally took my hand out of the club and said, "You're coming with me." And I love that. Cool. I don't even have to think about this. And I can just determine whether I like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I like it. So let's just do that. So I think that speaks to maybe a deficiency in my own ability to be sort of that mature adult and make those decisions and whatnot, but I'm just not good at it. So perhaps the next person I'm with might be a little more, just a little more courageous and able to have come up with an idea or a plan and have me feel secure enough with that to go along with it. And hopefully those plans work out, which, again, with my past relationship, a lot of the stuff worked out, because you don't know until you try, you can't succeed until you fail, all that stuff. And with the two of me and my last relationship, it was like, we kind of didn't really, nobody's really kind of steering the ship at times. And I think we were playing with like, okay, you go, let's see where you're taking us. Okay, I'll go. Let me see. How about this? And we just never got on the same page in a lot of ways.
Well, look, making this decision, I mean, as painful as it was, you made the decision. You made it. Now you're moving on. And now you have nothing but a highway in front of you. I'm the king of metaphors. You have this highway in
You're
front
also
of you.
such a Pollyanna. I love that your baseline is just always reassuring someone. It's so nice.
Well,
it's a lovely trait.
You know what it is? I'm trying to be solution oriented too here, Michelle.
Yeah, that is kind of your baseline as well. And I have the other thing where I'm like, let's look at the past and see how that's what's going on there to figure,
In the past, with relationships, friendships, whatever ships, I have often either started acting up, so to speak, to get out of something, at least force the other person to say, okay, that's enough. And they make the decision, but I'm sort of pushing them to make a decision. For example, okay, I think it's time we break up or whatever. I'm sure my behaviors pushed this last relationship in that direction, but it was already going there anyway. And what I did in this relationship is actually took a little bit of the initiative, or at least met this person halfway and said,
Nice.
yeah, it's going to be painful, but it's the right thing to do. And maybe that's another reason for, hopefully some kind of growth that I'm kind of experiencing.
It certainly sounds like it.
It's showing maturity. Maturity, is it not,
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah. Accountability. Maturity. Yeah. An openness to growth rather than saying I am who I am. Deal with it.
Scott, you're very self-reflective too. I don't know if you know that about yourself.
I'm a fast thinker, not smart. I'm an idiot, but my synapses go fast. You know what I mean? So I think it's happening in real time. Is what I think what you're saying. I'm getting into this whole other almost philosophy, almost like a Zen kind of thing. And it's almost a taboo, silly word to say, because once you start talking about it, you've already lost it, they say. But I'm starting to try to be even less reflective and more in the moment.
What does that mean?
I mean, to get a little deeper, and this is, not psychology, but, more philosophy, is there is no Scott, this ego, this thing. It's not really a real thing.
If we do go on the psychology route, there is a fine line between reflecting and overthinking.
Yes. And I have
Interesting.
always overthought.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
You do
Really
overthink
can
too much.
relate.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between overthinking and being reflective is one's not good, and one's like, dude, that guy's like, too many things are going up inside his brain right now. And the other one's like, oh, that guy's thinking and also staying in the moment at the same time. I'm starting to overthink less, maybe.
I remember years ago being told by my therapist that I wasn't being present. And I never really understood kind of what she meant until I actually started being present. And then I kind of figured it out. And I feel like Scott touched on being present. That's why I thought about that.
Surrender to the flow of life.
Yeah. Go with the flow.
Well, look, Scott, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on, and we've talked in private about this. It's great that you came on and could talk publicly about this, because I think it's really compelling and really interesting. And certainly something a lot of people can relate to, going through a breakup and then not only going through that, making the decision to do it, but then actually executing on it. And then, okay, looking forward, what's the next step?
Which is another thing I haven't done a lot in the past, is follow through with things. I start a lot of things, but I don't finish them, for better or worse. This is a worse, but at least I kind of took the initiative to complete something, at least, or try to putting a stop to something, ending it, rather than just letting it go on and on and on and on and on.
Michelle, in your practice, I'm sure you've seen people be in relationships, married or otherwise, and they just drag on, and they just are going in these circles, right?
Yeah. I mean, isn't that all, like what we all are trying to do in various aspects of our life? But no, I think for Scott, it's such a wonderful gift you are giving us by being on the show and talking about something that you're going through presently. I was telling Kelly, like, it's not like it's 5 years ago and you're saying, oh, this is what I learned 5 years ago from this bad breakup. It's like it's happening now and you're processing it in real time. Yeah. And taking lessons from it and taking accountability from it. I feel very honored that people are going to be able to hear that, because so much of what you talked about, I've heard 1,000 times from other people too.
And, like, a weird part of me thinks, is there a chance that we get back together? I think I would just be settling for something that I knew I didn't really believe in, to not be alone, or to not feel some of those feelings of being alone or sad or whatever. Or she might come to some kind of crazy revelation and be like, Scott, I totally figured it out. This happened to me when I was 4 years old and I finally got through it, or whatever, Okay, fair enough. But for the most part, no, I'm looking forward.
This was a fantastic conversation.
Thank you.
This may sound overly, effusive, but someone like Scott gives me hope for humanity. He's dealing with a breakup of a long-term relationship in real time and walked us through what that's been like for him. I'm just encouraged that he is reflecting and just considering different aspects of it in a way where he can grow from it.
Agreed. I really wanted Scott to come on, and we talked about it for a little while now, and he was very transparent with what was going on and his feelings. And look, going through a breakup is really hard, as we know, but it is nice to get someone's perspective on that. Now, granted, maybe we should have gotten her perspective too.
Ask her to come on.
Yeah,
See
right.
what happens.
Point and then counterpoint. But ultimately, I do know Scott. I do know we've had these same exact conversations just like this for a very long time, in terms of just his thought process with his ships, plural. It was nice to kind of finally get it out in the open a little bit. And I think for him too, just talking to you, it's very therapeutic, right? To actually say the words out loud and then get some feedback.
Yeah. And he mentioned that he is a fast thinker. So he was kind of thinking on his toes about some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as his friend, as someone who's kind of been helping him through it, what advice would you give to other people who are trying to support someone in their breakup?
Not be judgmental with them.
Mm-hmm.
listen. Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the kind of person who wants to offer some kind of solution. Say, hey, what can we do? What can you do? Now, did Scott admit he has work he needs to do? Of course he does. And we all do.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that look like? And as me as a friend, I know both parties. So I can to some degree speak to her. And make no mistake, in this case, I do like her. Do I understand Scott's point of view? Absolutely. Do I think he should move on? Yes. I have said that. And I think for both their sakes, I think it's just best. I think Scott in this case, he didn't really communicate just how emotionally attached he was to his dogs. And how important they were. They are like kids to them, both of them. So that was a bigger, I think, obstacle than maybe he kind of talked about. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
As far as a friend?
You did. Yeah. Listen, don't judge. Maybe offer some solutions if the person's open to it or in the right headspace. And you said something important, which is that we all want to be heard. And I would add a second piece to that. We also all want someone to care about our pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you as a friend can just be a witness to that pain and show that you care that person is hurting, that's also very powerful.
Mm-hmm. For me, there is a silver lining here, and I know we talk about. I guess I'm a glass half full kind of guy, but I tend to look forward so much, but many times it doesn't let me be present right now, right? So it's good, it's bad, exactly. I guess. But I am a forward thinker. I'm a planner. Scott even said he appreciated that about me. Or he appreciates having somebody who plans, because I do like to plan and take initiative. And in this case, he's taking initiative and he's thinking about his future. It's probably one of the catalysts for making this decision that he did. And ultimately walking away from this relationship, because it's just like, this isn't sustainable and I'm not happy and I need to move on.
Exactly. And even in the end, they're talking about if there were any doubts and the idea of like, could I see myself going back? He realized that the pros do not outweigh the cons of that. So maybe he would gain some comfort in going back to something familiar, but that isn't worth what he's gaining from breaking away and becoming something else for himself.
Mm-hmm. So takeaways from this podcast today are...
friendship is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Breakups are bad, but you can get through them.
Yeah. Both.
Sorry, no. Yeah, that's true, but no. What are your deeper takeaways?
Breakups suck, but at the end of the day, and sometimes it's for the better. I've been through bad breakups, and trust me, I'm a better person because of it.
Yeah.
I think in Scott's case, he will be better because of this.
And I think that's my takeaway is the universe will make you learn your lessons one way or the other. And so when you have someone open to being accountable and reflecting on, okay, I'm seeing these patterns. This is how I want to move forward in my life. That's my big takeaway is whatever horrible and painful thing you've gone through, there may be a lesson in there that is going to help you thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Some that may hurt and others that may hurt to hear, but certainly if you take them in, you will be better for it.
Good mic drop moment, Michelle.
If you're struggling with family, friends, or just life in general,
in a bad relationship and wondering what to do,
or you want a relationship and to set yourself up for success,
then we want to talk to you. So make your appointment on Unrelating.
To be a guest, ask a question, or recommend a topic, drop us an email at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube.